everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 3rd to the 9th of August. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic constellational astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic constellational astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the Sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the Sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the Sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the Sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the Sun actually is at the sky, the Sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the Sun and the Moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the Sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination, either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contra-parallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contra-parallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contra-parallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contra-parallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contra-parallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contra-parallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contra-parallels and parallels are. So this week we're back to having a few, but there's only 3 aspects influencing us, right? So we've got Mars making a contra-parallel to Neptune. This is exact on the 7th of August. It entered on the 30th of July and leaves us on the 14th of August, so right into, next week. Mars is in Virgo still, and Neptune's in Pisces. The Sun makes a semi-square to Mars, and the Sun's in Cancer, Mars is in Virgo, and this enters on the 4th of August, is exact on the 7th of August at 6:52 p.m. and leaves us on the 10th of August at 6:46 p.m. The Sun makes a parallel to Mercury, and Mercury's in Cancer, and this enters on the 6th of August, is exact on the 9th of August at 2:56 p.m. and leaves us on the 13th of August. So another aspect going deep into next week as well. So first I'm going to talk about the most significant aspects of this week. So we have Uranus making a quintal to the Moon's North Node, and it connects radical change with soul destiny. It's an innovative inward energy that encourages us to have breakthroughs, especially with using our unique talents and accepting our unique quirks, and doing this can become our superpower, especially for making progress collectively and individually. The Sun makes a semi-sextile to Jupiter. This is exact on the 4th of August. This is a 30-degree aspect, and it's a gentle boost increase of optimism and growth that's supporting this week's main energies, especially when it comes to how we deal with our home, family and emotional communication this week. The Sun makes a biquintal to the Moon's North Node, again a subtle energy at 144-degree aspect, and it connects us being creative and helps us align our emotional and psychological and spiritual needs with our future soul purpose and our creativity. So it allows us to express ourselves creative this week. The Sun makes a quintal to Uranus when they're both in Cancer and Taurus, right? And it can bring us light, bold intuition and revolutionary ideas and solutions this week, especially when it comes to our home security and emotional innovation and changes. So a lot of aspects supporting us to change things in these areas this week. Mars makes a contra-parallel to Neptune. This is exact on August the 7th, and it creates tension between practical action, Mars in Virgo, and our spiritual ideals, Neptune in Pisces, and this can bring confusion about where to direct our energy. So make a list, a to-do list, tick it off, and just be gentle with yourself and try to focus on the areas that need your attention this week. The Sun makes a semi-square to Mars, and this generates productive friction between our emotional needs and practical action, pushing us to align our heart with productivity. Venus makes a quintile to Chiron, and it allows us to heal through our paying attention to our relationship wounds and healing them through communication and self-expression. And Mars makes a trine with Uranus, which is a good, harmonious, balanced aspect at 120 degrees, and it allows our earth energy to work this week and for us to be practical, with Virgo and Uranus both in air signs, right? And it allows us to make changes in our lives that stick, routines that stick, that we can keep to. We have the full moon in Capricorn on August the 9th. So this is a accumulation point this week, which puts a spotlight on the balance between emotional nurturing, represented by the Sun in Cancer, and practical achievement with the moon in Capricorn, right? And it allows us to bring professional matters to conclusion. So we may see rewards here, achievement being given here, or we starting to learn skills or put into practical action that will lead to our long-term success. Mars makes an opposition to Saturn, and this challenging 180 face off, which is the same as contra-parallel energy, right, between Mars, which is action orientated, our motivation and all drives really in restrictive Saturn, creates productive tension that forces and supports sustainable long-term growth through us, being patient and persevering this week, getting back up after each challenge and keeping our focus. Mars makes an opposition to Neptune, and this energy can drain us this week and create confusion about our direction. So it requires us to realign ourselves spiritually to deal with this energy effectively. And the Sun's parallel to Mercury on the 9th of August improves our emotional intelligence and our communication strategies. If we're open to working with this energy, we can express our feelings with more clarity and purpose this week. So now I'm just going to talk about this week's main aspect. So as I said, we have Mars making a contra-parallel to Neptune. This entered on the 30th of July. And all of these aspects are leaving us towards the end of next week. We've got the Sun making a semi-square to Mars. This entered on the 4th of August. And the Sun's parallel to Mercury, which entered on the 6th of August, right? So in terms of the combined holistic astrological meanings, positively, all of these aspects bring inspiration and creativity. Mars and Neptune together ignite, spark, motivates our creativity, intuition and spiritual inspiration this week. It's a time to tap into our inner artist or healer. The Sun and Mercury in parallel improve our clarity, charisma and emotional intelligence in our relationships and communications, helping us to have those meaningful conversations this week and gain mental clarity to know where we stand. So it can be good for you, for some of you in relationships, right, to really have those deeper meaningfuls, and then, everybody involved in a relationship, whether it's a business partnership, family relationship, know where they stand and are going. It adds to our motivation and purpose this week. The Sun Mars semi-square can motivate our drive to go after our goals this week, especially those aligned with our heart desires, but negatively confusion and frustration. Mars and Neptune can create confusion, procrastination or feelings of being stuck, so we have to avoid impulsive decisions this week. There can be a kind of tug of war between our ego and our heart, and this can bring up conflicts between our ego and our emotional needs, leading to frustration if not balance. And we can just have mental fog with with Mercury in the Sun's parallel. This can be overwhelming, right, to our mind with too many ideas or emotions, making it hard to focus. The best use of this energy is to use Mars's Neptune energy for meditation, art or healing work. Do things from the heart this week, channel the Sun and Mars energy into passionate, purposeful actions that align with your emotional truth. Have clear communication. Use the Sun Mercury alignment to express yourself authentically and resolve conflicts. Psychologically, on the individual level, it brings attention to our motivations and boundaries. The Mars Neptune energy this week may challenge our ability to stay motivated and set healthy boundaries. We should think about, reflect on where we may be over giving or under committing. The Sun Mars semi-square highlights how we express our identity and desires this week. Are we holding back or overstepping? It helps us to have the mental clarity this week wants us to have over our emotions and thoughts, so we can think more clearly. So a lot of aspects helping us do that. So this is a good one really to sorting out problems and issues on the individual with your kind of like sense of self, your values and authentic self-expression. But we just need to watch out with the overthinking this week, because the Sun's parallel to Mercury can make us do this. In terms of on the relationship level, these energies can ignite our passion but also may bring disagreements. Use this to confront unresolved issues. We can have more empathy and understanding, as Mars is touching Neptune encourages us to have compassion in our relationships, and it helps us create safe spaces for ourselves and others to explore our emotions. It helps us to practice active listening and give and receive emotional support. And the Sun's Mercury parallel promotes honest and heartfelt conversations, but make sure you're not dominating the dialogue, the conversation. Make sure you allow everybody's voice to be heard and everyone to be seen, right? In terms of the karmic and spiritual meanings, so it wants us to balance taking action and paying attention to our spiritual and psychological lives, right? Mars Neptune energy teaches us this week to harmonize our drive with our intuition and spiritual values and balance our intuition with practicalities and logic, right? Karmically, it wants us to ask, are we neglecting our inner world and the deeper things in life? Why and how can we stop doing that? Also, it places the spotlight on authentic expression. The Sun Mars semi-square may reflect past patterns of suppressing our true self back to us in dream or in our communication. It may just come up in our mind, the ways that we are not ourselves and why we do this. And a lot of the time we're scared of rejection, abandonment and not being accepted for who we truly are. And a lot of the time we struggle with accepting ourselves for who we are. This is why we suppress and repress our true self, right? So this is a chance to break free and express our authenticity and list the things that stop us and the early experiences and other experiences that stop us from doing this. It allows us on the karmic and spiritual levels to have those deep conversations that can resolve our past karmic debts, and it highlights the importance of honesty, especially self-honesty this week. Spiritually, it wants us to trust our intuition and supports us in doing that, and inviting us to trust our inner guidance and surrender to the divine flow. It again wants us to align our actions with our higher purpose, reminding us that true fulfillment, wholeness, completion, happiness comes from living your truth. And I can vouch for this. In terms of emotional healing, it wants us to use this time to heal emotional wounds and integrate our shadow self. On the esoteric and mythological meaning level, the Mars Neptune energy symbolizes the warrior's journey into the mystical realm where action meets intuition. The Sun Mars energy represents the hero's quest for identity and purpose, where ego and heart can unite, and the Sun Mercury energy embodies the union of light, which is our consciousness, right, and thought, where wisdom and communication can become one this week. So my mantras and guidance for this week are based on the majority of energies that you have in your natal chart. So some of you may have natal charts that are dominant in more than one energy. You may have your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign all in different energies. You may have aspects to different planets. So ultimately this could mean you have some planets that are in fire, some in water signs, some in earth signs. So for example, if you have most of your planets in Aries, Scorpio and Capricorn, read the mantras for all of these signs. And if you have all your planets mostly in Taurus, read the mantra for Taurus, but you may also want to read for Libra because Venus rules Taurus and Libra, right? So yeah. This week I'm just going to talk about how each sign can deal with this week's energies. So Aries, this is a growth opportunity for you to balance your impulsive nature with intuition. Avoid competitiveness, being over competitive, Use physical activity, exercise to ground your energy. Anything else that makes you chill out in a safe, non-toxic way. Your innovative ideas need practical application this week as Uranus activates your resource house, right? So find a balance between your quick action tendencies and the need for patience. With Mars facing challenging aspects this week, your ruler, right? Channel frustration into methodical, logical, routine progress instead of impulsive decisions. Taurus, growth opportunity comes through you exploring different creative projects and outlets for self-expression this week, but the challenge is that you have to resist stubbornness in relationships. Strategy, practice active listening. The Uranus North Node quintile in your sign is revolutionizing your identity and sense of purpose. Be open to the unexpected changes to your routine that Mars Uranus brings midweek. This can initially feel disruptive and may actually be your path to greater stability and authentic self-expression this week, which, this week's energies is wanting us to focus on, Gemini, your growth opportunity comes through you clarifying your thoughts and communicating clearly, but the challenge comes with you overthinking, The strategy is for you to journal your ideas, take some time out and think before you react and act, right? And Venus being in Gemini, forming a quintile to Chiron, allows you to heal through communication and connecting with others. Express those brilliant ideas in a grounded way. When the Sun and Mercury align in your communication house, your words have extra healing power when delivered with both intelligence and empathy this week. So Cancer, this is a growth opportunity. You can align your actions with emotional truth, but your challenge this week is that you may be overly emotionally reactive. So your strategy this week should be to reflect on your emotional needs, make a list and try and meet them in healthy ways. And with the Sun in your sign, making multiple aspects this week, you're in the spotlight for personal growth and emotional clarity. The full moon illuminates your career house, bringing professional matters to a head, to completion for some of you. So balance the urge to nurture others with necessary self-care as Mars creates tension with your ruling luminary, which is the moon. Leo, this is a growth opportunity. This week, if you use your charisma and charm, and this can have a positive influence on everything you do this week, but your challenge is ego clashes this week, so it's best for you to focus on teamwork. The Sun's creative quintiles this week, Sun's your ruler, right, activates your subconscious and intuitive houses. Use this pre-birthday season for inner work and spiritual preparation. Your hidden strengths are being revealed to you this week, and this can come through dreams and quiet moments of insight that will motivate next month's birthday kind of energy. Virgo, this is a growth opportunity this week for you to trust your intuition in decision making, but the challenge comes from you being like perfectionistic. So practice mindfulness. With Mars in your sign, that makes multiple challenging aspects. This can cause frustration, but also tremendous growth opportunities. The opposition to both Saturn and Neptune may feel like driving with the brakes on. Practice discernment between legitimate obstacles requiring patience and illusionary barriers that you can push through with willpower and determination and a bit of extra hard work. Libra, the growth opportunity this week comes from you strengthening your emotional boundaries, but your challenge comes from people pleasing. But the strategy that can make you overcome this week's challenges is self-care, making that your priority, right? The Venus quintal Chiron activates healing in your relationships this week, and with honest communication you can overcome problems. And when the moon enters Aquarius this week, your fellow air sign, right, your creative and romantic life can get an innovative boost. So use this energy to experiment with unusual approaches to love and self-expression that break your normal patterns. Scorpio, your growth opportunity comes this week when you channel passion into creative projects, but your challenge comes through withholding your emotions. So your strategy is to open up to trusted loved ones. The Mars-Saturn opposition activates your home and career axis, creating productive tension between personal and professional demands. Use the full moon energy to restructure, change your approach, your routines and how you get security. And remember, sometimes tearing down outdated routine structures creates space for more authentic real building, letting go of toxic habits or relationships or continuing the work of doing so. Sagittarius, your growth opportunity is by reflecting on your life purpose this week. You can make great moves forward, but the challenge is restlessness, and this can get in the way of you making the progress you need. So your strategy is to plan meaningful goals and put all your attention towards this, right? And the moon in your sign midweek encourages optimistic exploration, trying new things before the practical Capricorn full moon grounds in your values and routine, right? So you can use this to, when the moon's in Sagittarius, make the plans. When the moon's in Capricorn, firm them up, take action. The Sun, Jupiter semi-sextile activates your expansion and learning houses. So even small gains in knowledge or small steps towards making, reaching your goals can lead to significant growth opportunities by the year. If you take those small daily steps, by the end of the year you can make great progress. Capricorn, your growth opportunity comes when you balance ambition with self-care, but your challenge comes with burnout. So your strategy is to take breaks. The full moon in your sign brings personal projects and identity matters to completion. And the Mars-Saturn opposition creates productive friction between your shared resources, money and stuff like that, and spiritual values. Ultimately, between what you're willing to compromise versus what principles remain, and your non-negotiables become clear this week. So it's good for laying down your truths, especially in partnerships, saying what you want, and thinking about are you willing to compromise things, and creating that balance between the things that you're firm on and the things that you're not. Aquarius, your growth opportunity this week comes from newness and from you expressing your uniqueness, but your challenge comes from emotional detachment. So your strategy is to do all your best to connect with others in healthy ways. And with the North Node in your sign making aspects to both Uranus and the Sun this week, it activates your unique destiny path. So the moon entering your sign after the full moon brings emotional clarity. After a period of self-reflection, your innovative ideas now have emotional backing to create meaningful community changes or any other changes in your life. Pisces, your growth opportunity this week comes from when you trust your intuition, but your challenge comes from confusion. Your strategy is to meditate, and with both Saturn and Neptune in your sign receiving challenging aspects from Mars, you're learning to balance dreams with reality. The Sun sextil-quadrant to Neptune can bring a temporarily fog in your direction. Use creative outlets rather than escape mechanisms to deal with confusion while you recalibrate, change up your spiritual and other purpose or things you're working on right now. So in terms of mantras for this week, Aries, I trust my intuition to guide my actions. Taurus, creativity flows through me and I am open to it fully. Gemini, my thoughts are clear and my words are kind. Cancer, I act from my heart, not just my head. Leo, my light shines brightly for others to follow. Virgo, I trust the universe to guide my decisions. Libra, I set boundaries with love and respect. Scorpio, my passion motivates my creativity and healing. Sagittarius, I am clear on my purpose and go after it with joy. Capricorn, I balance ambition with self-love. Aquarius, I am open to my uniqueness and share it with the world. Pisces, I trust my intuition and let go of doubt. So this week you can really, get the most out of it by asking yourself some questions like, how can you align your actions with your intuition this week? Where may you be holding back your true self? How can you communicate more authentically in your relationship? This week offers powerful transformative energy, particularly around aligning practical action with spiritual purpose. The dominant themes are finding innovative new solutions to old problems, healing communication patterns, and balancing drive with patience. Remember that friction often produces the greatest growth, so let the stars guide you, but remember you're the captain of your soul. Okay, so in terms of content to create or listen to this week or watch, when Mars in Virgo goes contra-parallel to Neptune in Pisces, it mixes a meticulously detail orientated focus to this week with a dash of dreamlike mystery, because we are talking about Neptune here. So public talks, blogs and vlogs etc could explore topics like balancing precision, which is Virgo energy, with creative intuition, Pisces vibes, how structured routines can kind of support your artistic visions, releasing them and just letting you express yourself, talking about how we can use art to work through our emotions, right, and other things in our life, or express our uniqueness. Talk about the tension between being detail orientated, checking facts and all the rest of it, critical thinking, and being open to the unknowable. So how we can work with both our logic and intuition, the psychic and the rational, right? Think about talking about things like how we can overcome internal blocks. A lot of the time it's ourselves that stop ourselves from being our best selves. You can mix scientific facts with mystical insights, and also talk about how everyday struggles can become art when we channel our pain through it, being creative, making music, painting, drawing, dancing, whatever. With the Sun semi-square to Mars, because the Sun in Cancer semi-square Mars in Virgo creates a push and pull energy this week between our sensitive inner vibe and our need to act. So discussing the challenge of merging emotion with practicality, sharing personal journeys of growth can be really good, and talking about how conflict can trigger and motivates our creativity, offering advice and turning frustration into action, really encouraging your audience and how we can use our life adversities to motivate us, and to instead of it stopping us, how we can overcome it and manage it, where precision, being precise, having a routine and structure can meet our passion and us just wanting to go with the flow and have fun, and balancing that so we can lead a balanced life and we can create and do the things we really need to do, like pay the bills but chill too, and maybe saving your own journey about when conflict led to creative breakthroughs, and giving tips on how people can really use their conflict to move on through. The sun's parallel to Mercury allows us to, be empathetic. So talking about how we can become more vulnerable and how we can sort of like communicate from the heart, and how this can, provide ourselves with inspiration and others. And talking about how we can learn to trust our intuitive voice, as I said, and use it in our work as well, and how deep self-reflection can improve our lives as well. And how we can ultimately content that tells us how we can transform tension in our life, endings in our lives into truth. Okay, so now I'm just going to talk about the energies that are happening day to day. Now, although the Sun's semi-square to Mars is only lasting in general about 4 days, it's still a main influence this week. But also we've got a nice sort of energy, which is Uranus making a quintile to the Moon's North Node on the 3rd of August. This is the only thing that happens today. This happened on the 21st of July. It's exact at 11:06 p.m. on the 3rd of August, and leaves us on the 21st of August. So it's going to last us about 2-3 weeks. And I just wanted to talk about this aspect here rather than at the beginning of the week with the other main influences. So the Moon's North Node is in Aquarius, Uranus is in Taurus. It brings a lightning bolt of energy, a spotlight on our life path and life evolution, soul evolution, and it basically is when disruption, Uranus meets karmic energy, which is represented by the Moon's North Node. So the quintile energy is a 72 degree sort aspect. It's called on the esoteric level a genius angle. It mixes Uranus radical change and the Moon's North Node destiny path. It's about breaking systems to rebuild soul aligned structures, routine, habits. The key theme of this energy over the next few weeks is that our quirks are your uniqueness. So write down over the next 2 to 3 weeks how you can let your uniqueness be your superpower or superpowers, upgrading your individuality to serve your higher purpose or collective progress. This transit brings a spark of creativity and innovation to our path, mixing the energies of Uranus in Taurus and the Moon's North Node in Aquarius. It allows us to be open to new ideas and supports us in doing that, and it wants us to consider how we can contribute to the greater good, especially our own greater good. We can expect an increase in creative ideas and the desire for positive change. It's a great time to explore new solutions and collaborate with others and forward-thinking projects. Uranus energy is all about futuristic, using new technology, new ways of thinking to make progress in the things you may be stuck on this week and over the coming weeks. Negatively, it can add to us feeling restless or resisting change this week, but we have to just remind ourselves that growth often comes from stepping outside of our comfort zone, using this energy to brainstorm creative solutions to our problems, staying open to new opportunities, and using this energy to align our personal goals with collective progress. In terms of the opportunities this energy brings over the next couple of weeks, it allows us to break free from toxic patterns and freedom from outdated family, cultural expectations and people pleasing. It allows us to focus on shadow work. We can have an urgent need for change, and this may disrupt our relationships and jobs, but instead of ghosting and ignoring, because Aquarius energy can just make us want to detach without dealing with our emotions. This can cause problems in your relationship or career, so just go about seeking and gaining your change in the right ways. We can just feel overwhelmed as well. We can have too many ideas and not enough focus, and we may feel like we've got like 10 TikTok tabs open at once, lots of content. buzzing around our head, and we can just resist change as well, clinging to comfort, which Taurus energy often craves, and going against the revolution that Aquarius wants to bring us, and this can lead to an inner tug of war, so we can ask ourselves, what weird parts of ourselves have you been hiding to fit in, allowing ourselves to be who we are. Uranus in Taurus wants us to think about our lifestyle, daily habits and attachments that block our spiritual growth. Our mantra for this energy over the next 2 to 3 weeks is, I am open to my weirdness as wisdom, my revolution is rooted. Thinking about the ways, writing down the ways that you can make changes in a stable way, stability, Taurus energy, revolution, Uranus energy, so like hashtag stable revolution, so yeah, and just really reflect on what outdated rule book are you ready to control, alt, delete this month, and are you being open to creativity and innovation in your life right now. On the 4th of August, the moon leaves via combustor at 1:25 a.m. The moon enters void of course at 7:12 a.m. and the sun semi-sextile to Jupiter is exact at 3:44 p.m. and this energy lasts us for the next couple of days, and the sun's in Cancer and Jupiter's in Gemini. So the moon leaving via combustor supports us in being open to emotional release, letting go of struggle, this energy when the moon's via combustor, which lasts for about 4 to up to 7 days, because it's from the 15th degree of Libra, right, to the 15th degree of Scorpio. So we can just feel a wave of release wash over us. It can mark the end of emotional chaos, especially if you've got a lot of Scorpio, Pluto aspects in your chart, out 8th house energy, 12th house energy. It can just feel like we're given the chance to reset, and it supports us having more clarity. It can be like, for some of you, feel like stepping out of a storm into calm, and it can just feel like that we're suddenly away from this storm, and we can just breathe deeply and let go of any lingering tension that the moon via combustor brought. So it gives us renewed energy, but it can also leave emotional residue if we don't confront the emotions and we try to hide from them. The sun semi-sextile to Jupiter helps us with our growth this week, and it brings emotional warmth and mixes it with intellectual curiosity. So it's a great energy to explore new ideas, network, and be creative. So work on creative projects, write, dance, sing, whatever. And it allows us to learn a new skill or share our thoughts with others. And it's our green light to shine and expand our limits. And it allows us to improve our communication, but we just need to watch out for overconfidence if we don't ground ourselves, right? Ultimately, today's energies bring a beautiful balance of emotional recovery and positive growth, giving us a chance to heal, reflect and act with clarity and confidence, thinking about what childhood story about home and what that should mean still runs your adult choices in a negative way, and finding strategies to overcome that, or continuing the work to heal your childhood and other trauma. Our mantra for today can be, I release yesterday's smoke to see today's spark, and we can reflect on what family pattern we are ready to drag into our mental recycle bin tonight or over the next few weeks, because we can't bring all changes at once. Slow and steady change is the best change. And just asking yourself how you can use this energy to heal and be open to the calm after the storm, while taking advantage of new opportunities. It's a chance to reset, reflect and reach out, be open to change with an open heart and mind. On the 5th of August, the sun makes a biquintile to the moon's north node at 2:44 a.m. The moon enters Sagittarius at 6:53 a.m. and the moon enters its gibbous moon phase at 3 p.m. So yeah, the sun's biquintile to the moon's north node happens at 2:43 a.m. Then the sun makes a quintile to Uranus at 5:40 a.m. today as well, and Mercury makes a semi-sextile to Venus at 10:08 a.m. as well. So this energy allows us to once again own our creativity, aligning our passions with our life, our soul's purpose. The universe is giving us a push to explore new ideas and connect with our future self, our highest potential, and think about what changes we need to make to move in that direction and reach our highest potential. It adds to the creative inspiration of this week, but it can add to the frustration if our ideas are immediately actionable. So if we can't take action, we may get frustrated, but remember, sometimes we just have to write the ideas down, and we may not have the time and energy to move forward at this precise time. But also do not fall into procrastination as well, but also be gentle if you can't because of whatever reasons move forward on your ideas right now. The idea is to take time out to think about breaking from your routine and how you can do that. As I said, if you can take brave steps right now towards your goals, this aspect really does encourage you to be fearless and open to unexpected opportunities, and shake things up. Mercury semi-sextile to Venus helps us to communicate with our heart from our heart, and in a way that blends heart and style, aesthetics and fashion and being on trend right now. You can express your feelings creatively through writing, art, or thoughtful conversation, and it's all about connecting with others on a deeper level and making our relationships more meaningful and beautiful. And it just supports us in improving our communication, creative expression, and having those deeper relationships. But negatively, it can add to our overthinking in relationships. So ultimately, today's energy inspires us to align our passions with our purpose, and a lot of energy allows us to do that. And the semi-sextile with Venus, allows us to, communicate from our heart, and it's a good energy to have date nights, repair relationship problems, and we can question ourselves on how we can use today's energy to express our creativity and be open to change and connect more deeply with others. See it as a canvas to paint on, with brave brush strokes, or creative writing, dancing strokes, whatever, and an open heart. And the biquintile energy allows us to maybe reflect on talents that maybe we haven't used from childhood, and for some of you, that piano lesson you once hated can be a new viral synth pop skill, so just thinking about things that maybe you haven't done for a while and how they can help you with healing, or maybe a side hustle now. Allowing yourself to be open to newness, and thinking about what silly childhood dream could actually be your retirement plan. Really thinking about what made the 8-year-old you, or the 7, 6, 10, the younger you, be in awe, be like, oh my gosh, I love this, and that you ignore now. That can really help you. I know it may sound silly, but it can help you monetize your hobbies, or just heal your wounds by using that hobby again, or hobbies for some of you. On the 6th of August, the moon void, of course, starts at 6:40 p.m. On the 7th of August, Mars' contra-parallel to Neptune is exact at 1:09. Mars is in Virgo and Neptune is in the constellation of Pisces. I talked about this at the beginning of this week, and it entered on the 30th of July and leaves us on the 14th of August. The Sun semi-square to Mars, which I also talked about this week, is exact today at 8:53, as I said, and the Sun's in Cancer and Mars is in Virgo, so yeah. So the moon in Cancer can make our emotions shift from wanderlust mode to work mode, and it brings that grounding and discipline and responsibility to the next few days, allowing us to be open to sticking to our routine and setting a clear roadmap for our goals, so it's a good energy to organise, plan and take deliberate steps towards our goals, but negatively it can make us emotionally rigid and inflexible, and this can lead to burnout if balance isn't maintained. So yes, stay focused on your goals, but take some time out for some self-care and working on your relationships, right? And combinedly, today's energy allows us to set goals and work towards them in a routine ways, and Sun's Mars energy allows us to and reminds us to manage our energy and emotions, and be more motivated and mindful at the right time, finding that balance between logic and intuition and being purposeful and sustainable. So yeah, we have to reach our goals, right, but the ways we get there need to be sustainable by building healthy day-to-day routines into our life, and helping us see through toxic productivity, and taking that time out to look after ourselves in the moment as well before we get to that burnout stage, so we can reflect on what outdated achievement badge can we finally retire, what habit that we think is good is really detrimental to our health. And our mantra can be, my worth grows when I rest, not just when I grind, because looking after our sleep patterns and the needs of our emotional health and psychological and spiritual health is essential for long-term sustainable holistic living. So ask yourself how you can channel your ambition, your goals, while maintaining balance and being patient in your plans, and use this period as an opportunity to build strong foundation for your goals, and approach it with focus and grace. On the 8th of August, Venus makes a quintile to Chiron at 1:31 a.m. and Sun makes a sister quadrant to Saturn at 4:51 p.m. and Mars makes a trine to Uranus at 9:45 p.m. as well. So Venus's quintile Chiron happens when Venus is in Gemini and Chiron is retrograde in Aries. The Sun's sister quadrant to Chiron happens when the Sun's in Cancer and Saturn's in Pisces. Mars makes a trine to Uranus when Mars is in Virgo and Uranus is in Taurus. So yeah, all of these energies last us for the next 2 days. So Venus is quintile to Chiron, sort of energy that helps us with our creative expression and communication and being creative like a lot of energies does, but we can have emotional sensitivity if we don't confront the root of any emotional issues that come up, and it really supports us to find empowerment through expression if we let our feelings out and turn pain into art or anything else creative, remembering that our unique expression, the way that only you can do things, can be a powerful healing tool for you, and expressing that is paramount, important for your ongoing growth. The Sun's sister quadrant to Saturn helps us to be responsible and adds to our maturity this week, and encourages us to reflect on our commitments and making sure they're aligned with our values. It's a time to step into our role with integrity and wisdom and build a stronger foundation and routines for our future. And it allows us to focus on our long-term goals, and negatively, our feelings of limitation, not having enough, not being enough, or being too serious can get in the way of us staying committed and building solid routines for our forward movement. Remember to be gentle with yourself, take your time, and don't compare your progress with anyone else's. Just remember to make progress in your healing or anything else, work projects, creative projects, in your own time. Sometimes detours are for the best. I'm speaking from experience. Or those who may want to move forward sometimes quicker than what we are, a lot of the times moving slower than we want to can bring deep insight and solutions solutions to your problems. Mars is trine to Uranus, allows us to break free from routines and be open to new things. A lot of aspects does this week. This aspect encourages us and supports us to do so, but again, we just need to watch out for unpredictability or changes in our plans that just can make us feel inconfident, you know. So just be gentle with yourself and try and have a plan B. And if you need to change plans or break a promise, you know, it's like, oh yeah, we can have a date night tonight, but suddenly you may have to work or something else comes up, you know, just explain the reasons why rather than avoid it, you know. Confront issues rather than avoid is the theme for this week. So so today's energy allows us to move forward and supports us in, you know, moving forward, but we just need to watch out that we don't overshare. Not everything needs to be told, you know, so just watch out for trauma dumping and other people trauma dumping on you, but it really does increase our productivity, and we can, you know, kind of heal our childhood wounds, allowing ourselves to look at it from a more grown-up perspective, and seeing that, you know, a lot of the time, all the time actually, you know, other people's actions ain't our fault. How someone chooses to respond, you know, is not our fault, even if we're being horrible. Of course, you know, things that we can do can trigger other people, and we should always take responsibility for that, but we just need to, you know, take responsibility only for what we can, helping others while we can, and, you know, to reparent our inner child and to give ourselves grace when we make mistakes, because a lot of the time we don't forgive ourselves because of past mistakes, but this can just lead to us being stuck, you know. And in terms of the shadow work we can do, the question we can ask is what childhood should still lives rent-free in our mind, you know, and how we can start or continue the work of letting it go, how we can create an emotional budget for family obligations, you know, putting things in their compartments, you know, putting the right time and energy into things, but knowing when to say no and when to let go of that family baggage, and, you know, coming to our own adulthood by taking responsibility for the things that we actually want to achieve in our lives, you know, and thinking about, you know, what 3 flaws could actually be your secret features, you know, that can help you create the life you want for yourself, you know. Trying to think of the positives. Our mantra for today can be my scars sprinkle when I stop hiding them, you know, being open to accepting yourself fully, asking yourself how can you use creativity to heal and take responsibility for your growth, you know. It's a chance to transform our pain into power, step into our maturity, and be open to exciting changes with courage and creativity. On the 9th of August, Mars makes an opposition to Saturn, the Sun makes a sister quadrant to Neptune, the moon void of course starts at 8:55 while still in Capricorn, and there's a full moon at this exact time while in Capricorn. The Sun's parallel to Mercury is exact at 4:57 p.m. The moon enters Aquarius at 9:42 p.m. and Mars makes an opposition to Neptune at 11:13 p.m. so there's a lot going on, right? Mars's opposition to Saturn happens when Mars is in Virgo and Saturn's in Pisces. The Sun sextile quadrant to Neptune happens when the Sun's in Cancer and Neptune's in Pisces. The Sun's parallel to Mercury happens when the Sun's in Cancer and Mercury's in Cancer, and this slashed us right into next week, the 13th of August, and I talked about this at the beginning of this week's weekly scopes, right? And Mars's opposition to Neptune happens when Mars is in Virgo and Neptune's in Pisces. So today's energy, Mars's opposition to Saturn, can bring challenges to us being open to our life's adversities and obstacles and taking responsibility. It can feel like hitting a wall, but it's a call to reassess, rethink our progress, and, you know, rebuild our life plan and direction, and, you know, solid foundations. What lifestyle changes do you need to make? What time do you need to go to bed to meet your goals? What do you need to eat? What exercise exercise levels do you need to do, and so on, you know. It reminds us to be patient and responsible and focus on our long-term goals, and remember that every change is an opportunity to grow. It really pushes this energy on us today, and again it just helps us to build in the change that a lot of the aspects have been driving us towards this week, but it can add to the frustrations and feelings of not being enough and not having enough and all of that, you know. So just remember to be gentle with yourself. The Sun sister quadrant to Neptune allows us to connect with our spirituality and pushes us to look beyond the material and day-to-day conformist behaviour and what other people want us to do, you know, and be open to finding creative solutions to your problems and being open to your higher self, using your intuition and your higher purpose, you know. The moon in Aquarius allows us to be open to our new thinking, you know, and connect with others on a mental level and work with others in group and think outside of the box, you know, and adds to our feeling of independence. And negatively, it can add to our emotional detachment, so we just need to watch out for that and the unpredictability of this week as well. Mars' opposition to Neptune once again supports us in finding and continuing our inner work, our shadow work, working with our inner child and being open and working towards our spiritual goals, right? But it can bring confusion about what we really want from our life, but it really wants us to push our actions, match our actions, what we say we want, and our words with what we truly want and our higher purpose, right? Ultimately, the full moon allows us to release what we need to release, right? And let go of what no longer serves us and celebrate the small wins, you know, as well as, you know, let go. But it can add to the emotional intensity and impatience of the week, so we just need to be gentle with ourselves. And combinedly, today's energies remind us to be patient and responsible and to align with our higher purpose. We can ask ourselves, how can we be more open to challenges and connect more spiritually and align our actions with our higher truths, you know, and to grow through life's challenges, because life will always be lifing, and the best we can do is to be open to the challenge this brings and build our self-awareness, resilience, love and forgiveness, right? It wants us to realise that sometimes we have to work hard, but to start working hard on the wrong goals and start mistaking our anxiety for intuition, you know. So, you know, sometimes we can, when we get into the spiritual psychic world, see everything as a sign, you know. Sometimes, you know, we have to get to the root of things and deal with our mental and emotional and psychological imbalances, because sometimes, you know, we can do spiritual bypass, which is attributing everything as a spiritual event and ignoring doing that deep shadow work, you know, that we need to do to stay in balance. We can ask ourselves, what should we have outgrown by now that still runs our choices, you know, and it wants us to think about what changes. This week is all about the changes we need to continue to do or start doing, you know, letting go of our doom scrolling and just thinking about the negatives, you know, and thinking about the positives. Some of you would be trying to fix maybe items in your home, writing things down. Our mantra for today can be friction, tension, conflict policies my diamonds, and you know, which is your talents and your life journey, and confusion reveals my North Star, you know, my destiny, my talents and how I can use them, the direction that you can take. So, you know, write down what 3 shoulds can you replace with coulds this week, and just be open to, you know, newness. This week's reflection overall can be what aspired life rule or rules need to be deleted from your mental hard drive right now, and how you can just be open to finding more balance in your life and mixing the spiritual with the practical, and just taking time out to get real about what it takes for you to be who you really want to be. So yeah, I'm Amani, your holistic astrological Astrological life coach, and this has been the weekly scopes from the 3rd to the 9th of August.